Hello and welcome to the video. This is going to be the first part of a series where I'll be predicting the 2024 Arnold Strongman Classic, which is being regarded as one of the most difficult shows to predict of all time, as long as having one of the most stacked lineups ever seen in the sport of strongman. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So as we see here, we have our bottom four athletes from 8th to 11th place, being Maxime Boudreau, Bobby Thompson, Thomas Evans, and Oscar Ziolkowski. Now, the name Bobby Thompson here is going to be sticking out like a sore thumb, considering that for the past two Arnold Strongman Classics, he's placed in the top three twice, more specifically in third place. Now, the reason why here I'm predicting him in the bottom three is due to the events of this particular Arnold Strongman Classic. They just don't seem to be particularly geared towards Bobby Thompson, specifically the frame carry and the stones, including the Disney stones and the stone medley, as well as the fact that the overhead in this competition isn't his preferred overhead, the log press, which I see having him drop more points than he usually would in an overhead event. So just getting right into it, into the first event, the max deadlift. Starting off with Maxime Boudreau, we see that he picks up 1 point here. Maxime isn't traditionally known to be one of the greatest deadlifters. He is stated to have a max deadlift of about 800 pounds. So in this current field, that is sort of on that lower end. He's also traditionally placed last place on most deadlifts in the majority of the competitions that he has participated in. So I think a last place on the deadlift is sort of expected from Maxime, potentially a 10th or 11th place, something around there. We also have Oscar Ziolkowski getting 2 points on there. You know, I feel like he has a 400 kilogram deadlift in a suit. However, at the Arnold, it's going to be without a suit and on the elephant bar. So he's probably going to hit something around 370, 380 kilograms, which again is going to be on that lower end when you compare it to the rest of the athletes here. But he will most likely pip a point off of Maxime there. We also have Thomas Evans getting 3 points there. Now, in last year's competition, he hit about 390 kilograms, which is a decent number. However, again, similar to Oscar, it's going to be on the lower end when you're comparing to the other athletes that we have in this competition that we're going to sort of see as the series progresses. Now, the all-star here is going to be Bobby Thompson, taking in a predicted 9 points here. I think that Bobby's going to really be pushing for that first place in this event. However, I feel like there's two athletes that are more likely than not to beat him here. However, I do think that it's possible that he could get 10 points, maybe even 11 points on here for a first place, depending on the status and condition of other athletes in this show. So moving on to the frame carry, here I have Thomas Evans scoring 1 point due to the fact that if you look at his results from the previous Arnold in 2023, we see that I believe he got about 3 points on there, beating out Trey Mitchell and Rob Kearney, which are two athletes not particularly known for their grip. So beating them out there isn't that big of a feat. He's also the athlete here with the lowest placing if you compare it to what other athletes scored in the previous Arnolds. So just beating him is Bobby Thompson here. He beat him out in last year's Arnold on the frame carry. So it makes sense that, you know, if both of them have improved at around similar rates, that Bobby Thompson would still come out on top on that event. Scoring 3 points here is Oscar Ziolkowski. Now, he's never done this particular frame carry with 400 kilograms up a ramp with no straps, as it's his first Arnold Strongman Classic coming in as the rookie. However, Oscar seems like that athletic kind of guy. He might have some good grip, maybe better than Bobby Thompson. And looking at the information that we have on him, he doesn't have anything that really stands out on grip. So I don't think he's going to be towards that top end of the table. But you never know. As he's the rookie, there's not much information. So he could place really anywhere from the lower end to mid pack on this event. So I just gave him a third place due to the lack of information that we have on him here. And in 10th place here, which comes out to second place overall in this event, we have Maxime Boudreau, who won this frame carry in, I believe it was the 2022 Arnold Strongman Classic, the first time he actually performed on this frame. He got somewhere around 8.3 seconds, which is about 1.3 seconds off of the world record on this. So I definitely expect Maxime Boudreau to be placing in at least the top 3 or 4 on this event, barring any mistakes or potentially any other athletes outdoing him here. But I do think there is one athlete that, when you look at him, is more likely than not to beat him out here. So here he scores 10 points for his second place. So moving on to the Denny Stones, here we have Thomas Evans and again Oscar Ziolkowski in the bottom 2. Now again, there's not much information for these 2 athletes doing the Denny Stones or even any similar events with, ringed stones where you have to use a hook grip to really maximize the distance that you're going to get out of those. However, I have Oscar over Thomas since he does seem to have a set of Denny stones to train with. So due to that, Oscar he could place anywhere from the lower pack, from the lower end of the pack to maybe even mid pack or higher than that. Just at the moment, there's not much information to go off here. So again, both of these guys are going to score in those bottom 2 positions. We also have Maxime scoring only 3 points, again in the bottom 3. Now, Maxime does have a very good grip. However, he has attempted the nickel stones before, and he got a sort of underwhelming result on them due to the fact that I believe he wasn't using hook grip. So it might be that he just does not have the optimal technique on this sort of stone carry. So again, similar to Oscar, he could make a lot of improvements there and place maybe around the mid pack, maybe even higher than that, as he does have a pretty good grip. But just going off of previous results, I do believe that there are many more athletes that can beat him out on this particular event. Now, out of these 4 right here, I have Bobby winning or scoring the most points on this event with 5 points. Now, again, Bobby's strength does not really lie with his grip. However, the Denny Stones is a very painful event, and Bobby does have a pretty resilient mind. So I feel like that combined with, potentially, well, actually, he is coached by Lawrence Chalet, who does have the world record on the outdoor Denny Stones, which I'm sure is going to give him a sort of significant advantage on this. However, I don't know if I would argue that he would beat out some of the athletes that are more tested or more talented with this particular event. However, I do think that he scores a decent amount of points just off of sheer grit. So moving on to the Apollon's wheels, here we see that Maxime, Bobby, and Thomas, they're all scoring 5 points here. The reason for that is that I believe that this event is going to be one where many athletes get many tied points. Now, for this event, I believe that something around 4 reps, maybe 3-4 reps with the 400-pound Apollon's wheels is going to be good enough for the win on this event. And I see a lot of athletes tying with 1 to 2 reps on it, actually. So I do believe that Bobby, Maxime, and Thomas are capable of 2 reps. However, even though I've predicted them, to have 2 reps, it's very possible that potentially Thomas with, not as much experience as others, or maybe Maxime, who's actually coming off of I believe it was a leg injury of some sort, maybe to do with his ankle, something like that. So, there's many factors here that could contribute to them scoring less than that. But on average, I do think that these top 3 guys right here can score 2 reps on that axle. Now here I have Oscar actually with 1 point, doing actually the worst out of all other athletes. Now, the reason being for that is Oscar isn't really the kind of guy that has that static strength, at least not really in his deadlift. but as well in the more brute force overhead events, kind of like the axle or the log press. He's a really good dumbbell presser, but the axle is going to require much more tricep strength to be able to actually lock it out instead of jerk under it. Now, no, that makes me think now, actually, if he does try a split jerk on this, he could be pretty good because I do think that Oscar's a pretty technical guy. Um, so I do think that he would be pretty efficient with the clean, and if he's able to perform a split jerk with this axle, he actually could end up getting maybe 2, 3 reps on this on second thought. So Oscar might actually uh be placing with much more points on this event when I come to think about it. But anyways, moving on. We have the final event, the Stone Medley, which will include a natural stone press overhead, I believe, with probably somewhere around 330 pounds. I believe that that's a similar weight that they used in the 2020 Arnold Strongman Classic. It'll have a stone load with another natural stone, kind of like an inverse stone, and then it'll end off with an AMRAP, doing as many reps as possible with the Oddhaugen Tombstone, and they're gonna have to shoulder that stone. Now, again, if you're looking at previous results, you would see here that Bobby Thompson is the only one out of these 4 guys right here that have actually been successful in shouldering the Oddhagen Tombstone stone. So that begs the question, why is he only scoring 2 points here? The reason being is that it's not very certain if Bobby will be able to pull that off again. Now, if he is able to pull off another shoulder with that stone, which I'll remind everybody that at the time, I believe it was the 2022 Arnold Strongman Classic, that was completely out of left field. Bobby Thompson is not really known for his Atlas stones. So to put in a natural stone of, I believe it's about 186 kilograms, all the way up to the shoulder, that was something really unprecedented from him. That was completely unexpected. So to do it again would really cement him as a pretty good when it comes to a natural stone to shoulder specifically. However, the likelihood of that is something that is up for dispute, I'll say. But if he is able to do that, then that'll definitely score him a lot more points, potentially getting in that upper half of the rest of the field. All right. So let's see. We also have Thomas Evans here scoring 1 point. Again, this is due to sort of his inexperience with many strongman events. He is still a bit of a rookie, even though last year he did participate in the 4 biggest competitions. But still, he lacks sort of the overall experience on the majority of strongman events. However, he's also been shown to be the kind of guy that can really surprise you. So again, this competition is very hard to predict. So any one of these guys could place honestly anywhere on the board. So we also have Oscar here with 3 points. He is a pretty technical guy, as I've said, so I'm sure that he will do pretty good on the stone press and the stone load. However, whether he can actually shoulder that stone is up for debate. He does occasionally train with Matus Kiliaskowski, who has the world record on this stone to shoulder. However, to say that just by training with him, can replicate a similar result is kind of a reach. But again, he could honestly place anywhere, maybe mid-pack on this event. So let's see. Another factor to consider on this event is sort of the time. I believe that most of the athletes are going to be able to do the stone press and the stone load. So it's going to depend on who can do that the fastest. So Oscar, again, he's sort of that athletic kind of strongman. So I do think he could move between those 2 implements faster than Bobby Thompson. Now, we also have Maxime here getting the most points out of these 4. Again, Maxime is he's pretty well known to be very good on stones. He also has some pretty strong triceps to be able to press out that natural stone overhead. and load the, I believe they're going to use something similar to an inverse stone. And he is, again, one of the faster guys too. So I'm sure he's going to be able to get those two out of the way pretty quickly and move on to the stone to shoulder. In 2022, I really thought that he would be capable of that. However, he failed. So it remains to be seen if he's going to be able to do it this year. It's going to definitely be a challenge, but I really look forward to seeing that. So then moving on to the final points here, we see that Thomas and Oscar are tied on 11. Now, thinking back to what was mentioned about him on the opponent's wheels, if he is able to sort of overperform on this event when compared to maybe Thomas Evans or some of the other guys getting 2 reps on that, then I do think that Oscar can overtake Thomas Evans here. To save himself from getting that last place position. However, it's definitely going to be a battle, and Thomas Evans is not the kind of guy that you want to underestimate. Even though I have him here in 10th place, it's just really that stacked of a field that to even break, let's say, past 7th or 6th position is really an accomplishment. So both of them are scoring 10th and 11th place, sort of tied on 11 points there. I believe if you do count back, let's see, if you do count back, actually Thomas Evans would come out on top, but again, Oscar can overtake him there if he pulls out an all-star performance. So then up here again, we have pretty tight final placings here. Still pretty separated away from these bottom 2 guys. So I think it's sort of safer to say that these 2 will be sort of lower than Maxime and Bobby. However, again, you can never really predict this kind of thing. But just going off of these predictions, we have Maxime and Bobby here with 24 and 23 points respectively. And now again, that is such a very narrow difference in points that any one of them could really take that 8th or 9th position, or even move up higher than that, depending on what kind of shape they turn up in, and their other competitors turn up in. But that remains to be seen. So overall, I believe that Maxime Boudreau has a high likelihood in placing around 8th place, Bobby Thompson in 9th, Thomas Evans in 10th, and Oscar Ziolkowski in 11th. So that's going to be about it for this video, just recapping the bottom 4 athletes. I believe the format for the remaining videos for these are going to focus solely on one particular athlete to be sort of more focused on them and really give them a spotlight. And then for the final video of this series, sort of just give an overview on all of the athletes and the potential changes or unforeseen circumstances that could be happening during or before the competition that can affect the overall placing of all these guys. But for this video, that's going to be about it, and that's about it.